When I decided to make my own wing bags and protector sets, I knew I wanted to make them good, not easy. That meant using good fabrics and, as I would find out, good sewing machines. As you might suspect, there was a pretty good learning curve involved also. But I figured it out and things are going pretty well, so I thought I'd make a video to show you how we do this. All of the panels are made from this flannel inner liner, a padding layer, and then the light canvas outer. Because I didn't want to spend all of my time figuring out sizes, I make templates for all of these parts. The canned goods are crucial also. With the cans holding my template down, I use chalk to go around it and trace out the part that I have to cut. I'm using specially shaped chalk that lets you trace out an outline and make a nice clean line to follow. I also had to make a larger work surface so I could lay out these parts all at one time without having to move them around while I'm tracing them. For all of the smaller components, like the tail feathers, I make up these corrugated plastic templates because they're a lot sturdier. I use a felt tip pen when marking out the flannel and the internal padding because none of these edges will be visible. If you really take your time, you can cut all this stuff out with the scissors, but this rotary cutter works a ton better. You have to use that special mat that this is laying on also. Even though you feel like you're going really slow, using this rotary cutter is a lot faster than the scissors. And it leaves a really clean edge that's a lot nicer for sewing. This is one of the larger wheels that they make in this type of cutter, and it can get a little challenging to go around some corners. They make much smaller wheels for detail work, and I need to get one of those. When I'm finished cutting, I stack all the parts up and then go through to make sure that I have all of the parts I need for each piece. It's easy to come up short one of the layers if you're not paying attention. Taking the time to pin all the layers together makes it a lot easier to get them sewn together accurately. I know there's probably people out there that can just whip this out by hand, but it ain't me, so I take the time to pin everything up. Before I start sewing anything, I pin all the pieces together for each of the panels to make sure I have everything in the right orientation and have all the pieces. I've had to take some of these panels apart before I learned to check them. Some things are best done before you sew all the layers together. Here I'm sewing on the handles, the pockets, and did the embroidery. In addition to everything else, it's just easier getting something like this through the sewing machine before you bulk it up with the extra layers. You can sew all the panels together with a regular sewing machine, but I've got a machine called a serger that trims and then does this to the edges all in one operation. And the serged edges are way easier to work with. This is the serger, and this can be a little scary machine because it uses 4 threads to do all this and they're all done at once. Plus it trims the fabric right ahead of the needles so you get a nice clean edge going into where it does all the stuff with the thread. I don't know who figured this machine out, but they're way smarter than I am. But I'm really glad they did figure it out. I used the serger to assemble the 3 sewn edges on the tail feather covers. The cover is inside out when I sew the 3 seams. Then we can turn it right side out and make sure that everything came out the way we wanted. We don't have to sew these edges anymore, so you get a nice clean edge. To finish the tail feather covers, I have to sew a banding on that raw edge around the opening. Most sewing machines have a removable piece so we can get at this arm. Then we can put the open end of the tail feather cover over that arm and it makes it a lot easier to sew along the edge. In the regular sewing world, they use this for working inside of sleeves or pant legs and stuff. They're more expensive and way harder to install, but I always use these really long zippers. They're like 3 yards long, have a real heavy backing, and they use metal teeth that work great. This kit's designed to make a whole bunch of normal length zippers, but I can take most of those sliders off and use one of them and make a full length zipper in our wing bags. The zipper runs around the top 3 sides of this bag, so I measured that so I can see how long I need to make the backing that I put the zipper on. We have a separate video on installing one of these zippers, so you can watch that rather than go through all of that in this video as well. Because this bag is going to have 2 wing halves in it, I make this padded separator. And this separator is completely enclosed in the same flannel that we use inside of the panels on the bag. This separator panel really gets in the way when we're trying to sew the rest of the bag together because we have to do it inside out, and that means this is sticking out the bottom of the bag. I use the serger to close up the remaining seams, and then I got to turn this thing right side out. When I first started making these bags, this is where I'd find out that I had one or more of the panels facing the wrong way. And that meant taking all this apart again with a seam ripper and starting over. I eventually learned to check my work a couple of times before I sewed this all together. But I paid attention when I did this one and turned it right side out and everything was pointing the right way. And before I get too excited, I do lay this thing down and go through it again just to make sure that I have everything in the right place. This set is for the 30cc Valiant, so I stuff my wings in the bag just to make sure that they fit. I purposely make these bags loose fitting, so you really got to mess it up before the wing won't fit in there. And last is making sure that the wing tube fits in its pocket. Here again I built in some extra room, so this shouldn't be a problem either. Everything checked out fine, so now I have another FlyingRC.net protector set ready to get shipped out to its new owner. And here's the tail feather set that goes along with it. I'd like to say that there's an easier way to do this, but if you want to use all these good materials, this is the best way that I know of. Besides, I think all of my planes are well worth whatever it takes to protect them as best I can.